Hi everybody, we're gonna get started. Hello everyone and welcome to this evening's Mayoral Candidate Forum. We're really happy to have all of you here. My name is Rhoda Shapiro and I am the founder and editor-in-chief of the Milpitas Beat. And we're coming in on the third and final forum of our series. We had our city council member forum last week. The recording's up on our website at milpitasbeat.com if you want to check that out. And this past weekend we had the school board forum, and that recording is going up this evening, so you can check that out also on milpitasbeat.com. So I just want to start out by giving a big thank you to our partners and our sponsors, Sunny Hills Neighborhood Association, Tina Broyles and Loan Pros Inc., and Dr. Larry Napolitano. Thank you all so much for your support. And I also wanted to acknowledge we have some elected officials in the room here tonight. I believe somewhere is School Board Trustee Rob Jung. There he is. Welcome, Rob Jung. Thank you for being here. I also saw Council Member Evelyn Chua somewhere. Evelyn Chua. Oh, there you are. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Maria Denise Cuenca.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our mayoral forum. We are so happy to have you guys here with us tonight. My name is Maria Denise and I'm a reporter for the Milpitas Beat. And I am going to go ahead and introduce our candidates. Tonight we have 4 candidates who are running for mayor. We have Mayor Carmen Montano. We have Council Member Hon Lien. Council Member Anthony Phan. And Mr. Voltaire Montemayor. Thank you to all 4 of you for being here. We look forward to an informative and well-rounded debate. And now I will introduce 2 of our moderators for the first part of the evening. We have students from the Union, the student-run newspaper at Milpitas High School, here with us to moderate the forum this evening. And we want to give a shout out to their journalism teacher and advisor, Mr. Sanjit Roy. And now let me welcome our first 2 moderators, Prisha Jain and Akshaj Kasha.
Hello everybody, my name is Prisha Jain. Welcome to all of you and thank you so much for being here. Before we start, I just wanted to lay down some of the rules and let you know how the evening is going to unfold. We'll start with giving each candidate 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Our timekeeper, seated here in the first row, will signal with this yellow symbol when you only have 30 seconds left. And once your time is completely up, she'll signal with that red X. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Akshaj Kashyap and the editor-in-chief for the Union. Once introductions are over, we'll move on to the questions. There will be 4 questions in total. Just so the audience is aware, none of the candidates have received the questions in advance. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and after those initial questions are up, we'll have time for a few questions from the audience. If you have one of those index cards, be sure to write out your question and hand it off to Rhoda, standing here somewhere in the room, who will be collecting all of them. Be sure to include your name with the question as well. For our audience questions, candidates will have 1 minute each to respond. And then we will end with the closing statements. Candidates will get 90 seconds each to deliver the closing statement, and that will conclude our forum. Are all our candidates ready?
Yes.
Okay then, we'll start with our opening statements. Our first candidate will be Carmen Montano.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you everyone for being here. I want to thank the founder, Maria Denise Cuenca of the Milpitas Beat, for hosting this candidates forum and the students as the moderators. My name is Carmen Montano. I have the honor of being your mayor, elected by the people and running for re-election to stay the course. I am a semi-retired school teacher and a substitute teacher as well, when I can. As a lifelong Milpitas resident, I attended Milpitas Public Schools. My children and now my grandchildren attend. 3 generations in Milpitas. I've seen my city evolve from an agricultural town to what it is today. I have served my community in a variety of roles. I served on the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Library Commission, and the Planning Commission. I was also elected on the Milpitas School Board for 8 years and the Milpitas City Council for 2 terms. I also served on the county commissions such as the Historical Heritage Commission, Valley Water, Open Space Authority, Santa Clara County First 5, Board of Directors, and more. You know, my community service began with my advocacy in improving a neglected neighborhood within our city, Sunny Hills, the neighborhood where I grew up. I formed the Sunny Hills Improvement Association. This endeavor was the beginning of a journey in public service. I learned that government could be used to better a community through advocacy, which in essence is democracy at its best. The council and I have achieved many milestones these last few years. As your mayor, I will continue to ensure police and fire keep our residents safe, to beautify our city, to attract high-tech and small businesses for job creation, to alleviate traffic congestion, and to revitalize our Old Town Main Street. My community service started with beautifying and improving a neighborhood, and now I want to take it further to improve and beautify our city. Re-electing me as your mayor, we can stay the course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Montano. Our next candidate is Hon Lien.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank you, Milpitas Beat and MHS students, the community members, for coming out tonight. Your vote will help decide the future of Milpitas. I'm Hon Lien. I have worked very hard to create multiple businesses with investors and contributors from all over the world. I serve in leadership positions in multiple charitable and educational organizations. I've served 6 years as school board member on Milpitas Unified School District. I serve as planning commissioner and currently serving as council member. I have extensive leadership experience in numerous service organizations, and that taught me how to be fiscally responsible, collaboration, and commitment. With my collaboration skills, Milpitas was successful in securing a $2.9 million federal grant for enhancing pedestrian safety around schools. With my commitment to the community, I cast a lone vote against the renaming of the library until the voice of the community is heard. Fiscally, I was the lone vote for a suggested settlement around $150,000 to resolve a dispute with a former city manager to avoid costly litigation. Unfortunately, council then voted to approve an unlimited budget to pursue this litigation. Today, we've spent way over that amount just in attorney's fees alone. Those votes represent my ability to lead, to govern. I don't talk, I act.
Thank you, Councilmember Lien. Thank you, Councilmember Lien. Our next candidate who will be reading an opening statement is Anthony Phan.
Thank you. My name's Anthony Phan, and it's been an honor to serve you for the past 8 years on the Milpitas City Council. I'm running for mayor because of that young little person right there. That's my daughter, who is 18 months old, and the other young girl in my wife's belly right now. You see, I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it here today because she's due any day now. I'm running for mayor because of the woman next to my wife. That's my mother and the dreams that she had for me. You see, my mother came here to America with nothing but hope for a better future. And that's the story of so many families across this city. I'm running for mayor for Milpitas families, for the next generation. Growing up, I saw my family struggle to make ends meet, but they never gave up. And that's what I brought with me to City Hall for the last 8 years, where I've delivered results, where I've turned big ideas into bold action. But there's still so much more to do. And we can do so much more. You deserve so much better. The cost of living is pushing families out. Crime near our transit station is making families feel unsafe. And City Hall is broken. Why would you want to stay the course on a sinking ship? You need a new captain to lead a new way forward. And that's why I'm running.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you, Councilmember Phan. Our final candidate is Voltaire Montemayor.
My name is Voltaire Montemayor. I'm a geologist, engineer, and more expertise knowledge. I studied and worked here in America and abroad. I know a lot with regards to air, land, and water. So I could help in many ways, not only Milpitas, but I should include, but I include not only Milpitas, our county, our state, and our country. I was a co-pilot navigator. I could sing. I'm a bowler. I play ping pong. So we'll make Milpitas happy. I want to have at least some of us be champions in sports and extracurricular activities in Milpitas. Because for me, I want everybody to be good in something. At least if we help everybody, we help the guardians and all, to have our kids finish at least high school. Not only young, but adults. So we will have a happy and peaceful city. My wife is a nurse. She's helping me with my campaign. She's pulling 200 words every half a day, 200 copies, and I'll go and walk around. If you've seen me in the neighborhood, even night time, I don't have a problem. This city is a peaceful city. So my father was in the United States Armed Forces in the Far East, and one of my sons now, though, is married to a Japanese lady. In other words, there is forgiveness and love to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. And that concludes our opening statements. Hi, everyone. My name is Yunsi, and I have the first question of the evening. We're going to dive in with the big question right at the top. How would you work to ensure that money doesn't get squandered on lawsuits, and beyond that, how would you ensure fiscal responsibility for our city? We'll start with Mrs. Lien.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Louder.
How would you work to ensure that money doesn't get squandered on lawsuits, and beyond that, how would you ensure fiscal responsibility for our city?
All right, thank you. So on our budget, we're showing that by 2026-27 fiscal year, we will have a deficit of about $440,000. That does not count those lawsuits that's out there not settled yet. And if leaving a blank number, a blank check to fill in, we don't know what our deficit will be after that settlement. We've tried so hard in making sure that everything that we spend is going to be fiscally responsible. Why do we have deficit? Because of these lawsuits. We need to be conservative, we need to be responsible, we need to make sure that we have a number and make sure that once that lawsuit surface, try to settle as soon as possible so that you don't have to have a costly litigation, time, and money spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lien. Now, on to Mr. Phan. Same question.
Sure, thank you. When we look at budgetary issues, it comes down to leadership. It's often easy to point the finger towards spending. And yes, a part of it is spending. But we can't sacrifice the quality of service to our residents, to the public interest, due to budgetary concerns. Things like public safety, things like public infrastructure. That is essential to the well-being of our neighborhoods. And that's something that we need to plan for. And what I've been doing is investing into the resources to prevent these kinds of budgetary constraints. That's why I supported the initial Measure F, so that we can raise the revenues to fund these services. But we need accountability and we need transparency. And that's why we need to get to the heart of the matter. Why are we staring down these deficits in the first place? And that's because the current administration has failed us. They use buzzwords instead of actually balancing the budget. They've mismanaged our city's finances, wasting millions upon millions on unnecessary legal battles. They've neglected the real needs of our community, while hardworking families are tightening their belts. And that's why voters of Milpitas deserve change, they deserve accountability, they deserve transparency.
Thank you, Mr. Phan. Same question for you, Mr. Montemayor.
I kind of agree with Hon Lien and Anthony Phan. The thing though, in my ideas, regardless of how much is a project, if it's and the need for the people, if the crack and crevices at the pickleball court is dangerous, then we should make a way, we should budget, we go for it. We should have a budget to repair the pickleball courts. Anyway, I agree also with the Measure F. For me, we should retain that. We should vote for the retention of that $8 million budget. So it's a big help. So my point now is, I know I was a dispersing officer. I'm with the Knights of Columbus. I was a Grand Knight, director in many associations, and a member of the Chamber of Commerce. My wife with the Ladies Guild. We all, this organization, non-profit organizations talk about budget, of course. Without the sufficient budget, it's hard to move. But for me, the very, very importance of a project, of the need of the people, especially for any project that goes, that will be used for this, like spelling contest, essay, all those contests, ping pong, championship. In many ways, we should have a budget for sports. We should have a budget to help the school. We don't want the school be closed in Milpitas. I don't think it's happening, but it's happening in many places. That we should budget now to make sure that none of the schools be closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Same question for you, Ms. Montano.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. So first of all, when the pandemic hit, it affected many, many cities in the county and also the state and also the country. Many cities have a structural deficit and it's playing catch up. So what we're doing, trying to pass Measure J, we did pass Measure F. Measure J is just a continuance of a sales tax. It's just 1/4 of a penny. So this is what we're trying to do to improve the structural deficit that we have. And again, as I mentioned, it's not just our city. Most of the cities have a structural deficit. There's cities that are in, they're in a financial hole, but thankfully, I do believe that our city management team has been able to keep us afloat. We have a general fund budget of $138.5 million in fiscal year. Our total city budget is for the 24-25 of all funds is $249.8 million. Our housing authority fund balance is $2.27 million. So it's not like we're in a hole. It's just that we have a structural deficit. We're trying to get out of that. And again, it just means passing these type of initiatives so that way we can make sure that we're not in. And also what I would like to do is make sure that we hold our city accountable because we are spending more money on consultants. These lawsuits are nothing compared to what we pay for consultants. That's where we really need to curtail our costs. We just have, and then we have activities at our city, at the Parks and Recreation Department. We should be having sponsors, those banners, people sponsoring our events. We need to be creative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montano. Hello, everyone. My name is Rainbow Kungan, and I have the second question. Within the Milpitas Unified School District, there are 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 child development centers, 1 comprehensive high school, 1 continuation high school, 1 San Jose City College Extension program, and 1 adult education school. There are over 10,000 students within these schools, and the MUSD staff includes about 950 employees with more than 460 teachers. Obviously, the school district in Milpitas directly pertains to a large number of people living here. If you're elected as mayor, what are some ways you could partner with the public school system in our city to make an impact on our schools and improve student outcomes? This time, we shall start with Councilmember Phan.
Thank you. First of all, I believe that education is the best investment that we can make for our society. And I want to thank all of the teachers and school district staff, the educators in our community for empowering the future generations of tomorrow. The work that you do is truly invaluable. You don't get recognized enough. What we can do as a city to further enhance the educational community beyond just throwing dollars is really investing in retention and recruitment and attracting teachers. It's a profession that has driven a lot of people into debt, into uncertainty, and that shouldn't be the case for our teachers. What I have done on the city council is I've pushed for middle income workforce housing to really address the missing middle for the folks that make not enough to obtain housing, but just above the threshold to qualify for affordable housing. Unfortunately, my opponent has shot that proposal down, but had that been approved, you would have seen a tremendous influx of housing readily available for
Thank you,
our
Mr. Phan.
educators in the community.
Same question for you, Mr. Montemayor.
Yeah, the living example for education is myself. I was working for Hewlett Packard. I was driving and reading my books, going to Sequoia Institute to do some car repairs. So I'm a technician of cars. I'm also studying at Mission College at the time. I didn't give up. I finished my schooling at Mission College, be an engineer, and finished to be a general automotive technician at Sequoia Institute. In other words, this is me to encourage everybody. This is me why I'm here now. This is me why Toyota hired me. This is why I could help the church at St. John's, because I'm very versatile, because of the education. In other words, I encourage if there's a trend that there's a problem with the staff, shortage of staff, shortage of supplies in the school. We could ask for grant. We could do some subsidized sources. In some places in the world, they do subsidize. The parents, all the organizations subsidize for the expense of the school. They do their best. They don't want any dropouts of their children. In other words, if we could do that to extrapolate the same way that we do in other countries, then we could do it here. I mentioned some places, some countries. I mentioned Philippines, poor country, but we do that. Japan, somewhere. That's why education is very important. The staff should be considered in their expertise. We should respect them. We should give them all what they need. In other words, education is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Same question for you, Mayor Montano.
Thank you for that question. So we have a city-school collaboration meeting every other month. Actually, sometimes it's once a month. And it's the mayor and the vice mayor who attend those meetings. And that's the area where we hash out different differences. We have ideas and where we collaborate. So we have a partnership. We have a symbiotic relationship with our school district, and we try to help one another in different, for example, with the new innovation campus, we've been streamlining the permit processes there at the new campus. Also, we are working with developers, the Pulte group, and they're building workforce housing for our teachers. So we have a great working relationship with our school district. I've initiated a traffic study on Escuela Parkway, and I've been there in the mornings where it's just horrendous. The traffic is really bad, so we're trying to find ways of how to alleviate that traffic. I also serve on the VTA, Valley Transportation Authority, and I've been proposing to do free bus fares for our students, because if you go to a high school campus, it's crowded. It's one thing it will do, if you do that, it'll reduce congestion, it'll reduce our carbon footprint, and not only that, the most important, it'll condition high school students to take the bus. I'm proposing just for high school students, not for any other grades, but because they are the ones that drive to the high school. So I'm proposing those as part of my initiative on the VTA board, and hopefully the rest of the board will follow along and propose that, because that's really important. We need to reduce congestion on our streets, and students need to be conditioned to take VTA mass transit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Montano. And now we'll be finally moving on to Councilmember Lien.
Thank you. So I served on school board for 6 years, and I do know the importance of being parents. When you send your kids to school, you need to feel safe. You need to see your children coming back to your house every day. So with us in the city, we collaborate with the police, making sure that we have security. And then when we passed the AA bond, we wanted to make sure that all the schools have fans on. So they put I'm not sure if it's 6 or 8 feet fence to at least that would provide some sort of security for the students when they're in the classroom. We also have police officers coming in and give drills to the students. In case of an emergency, what should they do? If there is a person, unknown person, a stranger walking up to you with a gun, how do we deal with that? What do we do? With the teachers, when I was on school board, of course, we advocate with developers to make sure that there are affordable housing and workforce housing for teachers. My daughter is a teacher, and I do know that teachers don't make enough money. And I always tease with her. I said, you know, with the salary that you are making, do not dream of buying a house here in Milpitas. You can probably buy 2 doors. So, thank you.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Lien. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Young, and I have the next question of this evening. As a reminder to our candidates, please be respectful to your other candidates and refrain from personal attacks. This question is a 2-part question for all of our candidates. What are your top 3 priorities should you be elected, and how would you plan to address these priorities? We'll start with Mr. Montemayor.
I consider homelessness, house rentals. Rental now is too high. Homelessness is going rampaging. But there should be a way. If we have a center, a homelessness center, that they could at least pass the coldness coming, the very hot temperature lately. So some are dying because of heat. Some are dying, some may die again because it's too cold. So homelessness, we have to start studying why are we having more homeless people now. There should be a reason why. And there should be a way to stop the increase of homelessness. I think it's about 100 plus homeless now in Milpitas. At least Milpitas is in good shape compared to other cities, Oakland, San Francisco, wherever. Now, being me as a geologist, I think we should prepare. I know how to help the fire department. I would say the police department also, when it comes to calamities, and then when it comes to fire, we should consider budget for the fire department, police department, and we should consider the rent control. I know sometimes because of no rent control entity, then maybe no offense, some landlords will just raise the rentals as often as they want. So as I said, homelessness and house rentals be reduced or...
Sorry, Mr. Montemayor, your time is up. Thank you for your response. Same question for you, Ms. Montano.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. One of the areas that I would like to really focus on is our permits. We usually, every time someone requires a permit, they have to pay permit fees. What we have seen during our budget, that the permit costs or revenues are very low. So I would like to, one of my first priorities is to streamline the permit process. That way and also give incentives to some of the businesses that come in, so that way they can want to bring in more business. Attracting more businesses, but will bring our revenue up. Again, because we are going to be in a structural deficit, I think we need to focus on bringing in more revenue for our city. As I mentioned, we need to be creative, find ways to bring in revenue, and not just doing the 1/4 a penny, but also finding ways where we can streamline, where we can cut areas, or even increase funding. For example, We have a child care center that the city owns. It's right there at City Hall, but it's not being used. I mean, why don't we lease that to a nonprofit organization to bring in revenue for our city? There are many, many creative ways of how we can start bringing revenue in. So those are my priorities, to try to be creative and bring in that revenue. That'll solve a lot of our problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montano. And now moving on to Mrs. Hon Lien.
Thank you. So my priorities, since everybody's going on homelessness, my priorities is the housing, lower housing costs, because I want my children to stay near and close to me. Right now, I've shared just a question ago that with the price in the housing here in Milpitas, there is no way newly graduated students can afford to get a house, let alone, buying, having no other help from parents. Public safety is my other important priority. We need to find innovative ideas, because the police department and all police department right now having a hard time, very difficult time to recruit officers. We have 8 vacant positions here in Milpitas, and we're trying so hard. We would like to come up with some sort of incentives or bonuses so that we can hire inter-department transfers. That way, it may save the city some money, because we don't need to send the officers to an academy to train. And my other priority is the structural deficit. The deficit is very important. Right now, we had 2.9 million that we just secured. There are loan requests in the pipeline. We are waiting to hear from them. What we need to do is to get businesses to open as quickly as possible by streamlining the permit process to help them open. That would at least lower the structural deficit for us.
Thank you for your response, Mrs. Lien. And now on to Mr. Anthony Phan.
Sure. There are so many big issues in Milpitas that it's impossible for me to go in depth and break it down in just 2 minutes. I encourage you to have that conversation with me after. But I want to do something here today, which is to ask the voters to open your eyes. Because the biggest problem in Milpitas right now is the complete failure of leadership at City Hall. Before we can address all these big issues on affordable housing, on homelessness, on public safety, we need new leadership. We have a mayor that's out of touch and quite frankly no longer up to the job. When you're mayor, you have to have a thick skin, and all of these critiques are fair game. The result is our city is stuck in a downward spiral. Families are being priced out, crime is rising, and businesses are packing up and leaving town because they've lost confidence in city government. The truth is, we've been paying the price for failed leadership. Millions of taxpayer dollars have been wasted on lawsuits, stalled projects, and political infighting, while our neighborhoods are left to deal with outdated infrastructure, polluted air, and unsafe streets. The current administration has run our city to the ground. And they've proven time and time again that they can't get the job done. The old ways of the past just isn't cutting it anymore, folks. That's the reality here, and we need new leadership. So what's my plan? We're gonna bring real oversight and transparency, real accountability.
Thank you for your answer. Hello everyone, my name is Vasista, and I have the final question before we move on to audience questions. The Hillview Court apartments in Milpitas are part of Project Homekey. It's a 132-unit supportive housing project designed to provide housing for people experiencing homelessness in our region. The facility has provided case management and supportive services for its residents but there have been many instances of assault, burglaries, violence, and failed drug overdoses. So this question comes in 3 parts. 1, did you support the Project Home Key when it was first pitched to the city of Milpitas in 2020? 2, what are your thoughts on how it has impacted the neighborhood? And 3, how do you think we should move forward from here? For this one, we'll start with Mayor Carmen Montano.
Thank you very much for that question. You asked if I had voted for, I was on the council at the time, and I voted no, and the reason because I voted no because we had no local control. The surrounding neighborhood, the Chappelle homes on Hillview, had no say-so. And you would think that the developer, who was Jamboree, you would have thought that they would have done some outreach in the neighborhood because it was going to impact them, and they didn't do any of that. So I voted no against that. Plus, they spent like $800 million, and I was thinking, wow, they could have bought each of one of those tenants a house. there was something that was just not right, and unfortunately, it failed. Rich Trent and I voted against it again because they took away our local control. The state and the county put that in, and it's not that we weren't trying to help unhoused. It's just the way that they did it. There was no communication with the neighbors, and now you're seeing a lot of the ramifications. You're seeing crime. There's been a murder, a rape. There's been drug overdoses, and so I have created a stakeholder group. So we have a meeting once a month with some of the stakeholders, the Jamboree and the county, and we're trying to improve it because we want to make it a model place. But I will tell you, it is very difficult because there are just too many problems that exist in the way that. But it's really the way that they're being screened. When they come in, they're not screening. They're just bringing in. They're not screening them properly. And that's why we have a lot of people that take advantage of the system, and some of them don't even want to be housed. They bring in some of.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now moving on to Councilmember Hon Lien.
Thank you. So we can no longer support state or county initiative if they're not going to contribute to the solutions. They cannot just drop people here and have our police and fire departments, firefighters to respond to the call, and they don't share the cost. For example, Home Key, and the question you asked, we want some funding, and I know that we've asked for the county to share some cost for our officers when they are working relating to the Home Key, all the costs on there. We cannot allow agencies coming into our city to make promises which they cannot deliver. That's a no. We stop. We don't do that anymore. And we cannot allow their management to house individuals in there, in Home Key, that negatively impact other residents because they want their success statistics to shine. Our police is having enough of a trouble to recruit, and the calls in 2023 alone were 68,422 calls, 911 calls. I don't know how many calls and how many minutes is the Home Key. So I'm gonna stop at that, and for me to really work on this, if there is another initiative proposal from state, from county, I will make sure that won't happen here in Milpitas. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Councilmember Anthony Phan.
You know, I've never believed in a one-size-fits-all solution. What might have failed in one area at a certain point in time does not define what will happen in the future. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to improve the situation. I haven't given up. But the fact of the matter is, Home Key is a mess. I acknowledge that. And while I initially supported Project Home Key and its intents, I'm not afraid to admit that I was wrong on the issue. Mayor Tran was right. I disagree with how we approached it. I don't think we necessarily should have, burned so many bridges. However, there were a lot of criticisms of Project Home Key, and they're valid. There's a lot of public safety concerns. I have visited the site, and I have talked to the residents there. They feel unsafe. They feel just as unsafe as the people living around there, and it's heartbreaking. The fact of the matter is, when I see the growing number of people struggling on the streets, I don't just see a statistic. I see people. I think about my own upbringing, how I was raised by a single mom who is on her phone right now, who worked tirelessly to put the clothes on my back. And we were just one bad break away from losing everything. I remember that. Can't forget that. And I know what it's like to deal with fear and uncertainty. Let's talk about preventative services.
Thank you. And now, let's hear from Mr. Montemayor.
I'm one of the bravest person like my father. He used to be first lieutenant. He disciplines everybody, disciplined me. And I am on the reverse source. I am a very convincing, I'm a counselor type, like my mother. So allow me to resolve this problem. The home key, the disagreement, the problem there. Allow me when I'll be in a position, then we'll resolve this problem. There should be no problem that will be happening there. These calls, the police are doing their great job, They are really response. One of the best response time is the police force in Milpitas. So I will be with the police force. I will be with everybody. Now, because this was a project, the county and the state, we cannot do anything, even though we said we don't agree before. But we should agree because we are talking about a county and a state project. So we should go for it. In other words, we should go for any deficit of budget, any needs of financial support, then we should pound on the county and the state. And then we'll give example. Milpitas has a good project like Home K eventually. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Before we continue, I'd like it for us to give it up to our amazing Milpitas High School journalism students for their moderation. We are now moving on to the audience questions portion of the event. I have in my hand some of the cards we've collected from our audience members, and we have some time to go over a few of them. The candidates for this section will have 1 minute to respond. And for our first question, we have Mr. Rob Means, who will be asking his question.
In 2020, scientists warned us to dramatically reduce our CO2 emissions by 2035 or suffer major and worsening consequences from global warming. Already, many more billion-dollar weather catastrophes are destroying homes and killing people. Yet City Council has only taken minor steps to reduce carbon emissions over the past 5 years. Examples of major changes include imposing a local carbon tax. 2, requiring all homes sold in Milpitas to be all electric, meaning that old gas lines must be capped before occupancy by the new owner. And 3, supporting the Podcar public transit project proposed for the metro area. Rather than small steps, what CO2 emission reductions or alternatives are you willing to explore or act on that are proportionate to the danger we face?
For this question, we will be starting with Hon Lien.
Okay, since I'm not an expert, and we have staff in City Hall who are they are an expert in doing so. So what we are waiting for, or what we are looking for, is for them to present to us and educate us and make sure that they can really explain to us what needs to be done. And if that's the case, we will get it done. So right now, the only answer I can give you, Rob, I'm not an expert in this, so I'm going to look to my staff for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Hon Lien. Next, we have Mr. Anthony Phan.
Change takes time. Obviously, the effect of climate change has accelerated the carbon emission in our society. And it is hurting future generations, and it's heartbreaking. And it's the biggest existential threat that I view to our humanity. I think that when it comes down to it, there's so many ways to approach it. But it comes down to making it systemic. Now, we have adopted a climate action plan that is supposed to lay out the framework as to how to reduce carbon emissions. That means reducing 100% of carbon emissions within the next 15 years. Maybe that's not fast
Thank you,
enough.
Anthony Phan. Next is Voltaire Montemayor.
Familiar word is the ozone. We are now the ozone problem having those smokes, carbon smokes. I am a geologist, so I should be in favor of fossil fuels, but because of life-threatening climate change, then I can't do anything but to save lives. In other words, even though we don't have enough charging machines here, the EV button in our cars, I don't have one yet, but because of the climate change is really dangerous now to our health, our life. So we'll go for it. 2035 may not be because it's very hard. Where can we put those batteries? A lot of batteries, a lot of charging places. It's sometimes I walk every night, and even though it's a lot of circuits there, I still walk.
Thank you, Voltaire Montemayor. Lastly, we have Carmen Montano.
Thank you for that question. So, yes, climate change is alive and real, and we are feeling the effects. However, let me go back to our city. What our city is doing is putting solar paneling. We have adopted a climate action plan. We have adopted it. We also have been given $2.1 million from Congressman Ro Khanna for electrification of our homes. So we are doing our due diligence and doing what we can. However, I will mention it's other countries. We can do all we can, but if other countries are not doing their due diligence and trying to reduce climate, it's like trying to get rid of all the flies, but you got the doors wide open. You know, it's not gonna make an impact unless all the countries in the world get together and start communicating. And
Thank you, Carmen Montano.
Thank you.
I will now ask our second audience question. How do you plan to support small businesses in retention in Milpitas, particularly in addressing challenges related to high commercial rents and property costs? For this question, we will be starting with Anthony Phan.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sorry.
No worries.
How do you plan to support small business retention in Milpitas, particularly in addressing challenges related to high commercial rents and property costs?
Well, I think it comes down to really having a vision of economic development. And we have long-range planning efforts that we've included small businesses and large businesses alike to have a say in the actual zoning and the long-range vision for the area that they will be servicing. But the reality is this, the economic reality is this. It's not just about the economy. It's about the leadership for these businesses. And quite frankly, businesses, for example, like in Main Street, it's outdated, it's run down. Just like the tired leadership at City Hall. It's a reflection of how the same old politicians have been stuck in the past, talking about change but never delivering results.
Thank you, Anthony Phan. Next is Voltaire Montemayor.
Thank you. I'm now reading the CIP and the GPAC, Capital Improvement Program and General Plan Advisory Committee Handbook. It's a full big binder. In other words, yeah, it's because of the business economy index. It's very hard. The hope of the whole world is the economy, and when the index is high, then all we could do is to support help businesses. We have to be loyal in going to their stores. We have to be supporting them. For me, I was gonna say we need a Costco in Milpitas, but that's not a small business. We need an eating place bigger than Milpitas Buffet, but it's not a small business. But I want that we will have economy, that we will have a revenue sources if we have the Costco and I mentioned Milpitas Buffet eating place.
Thank you, Voltaire Montemayor. Next is Carmen Montano.
Thank you for that question. You know, the markets control the economy. It has a life of its own. I encourage you, if you haven't taken Economics 101, take it. It's really enlightening to see how the world markets, macroeconomics, microeconomics, how it all affects us, every one of us in our daily lives. Going back to the commercial businesses, you know, when COVID hit, many people did not go to the restaurants, they could work from home. And this has impacted a lot of our commercial businesses because they're not out there circulating the money. So that's what why we have this problem at the commercial districts going down in rent. Now you can purchase a commercial district, a commercial building for more than half of what it was worth. So yeah, it's all about supply and demand, and what it started all with COVID, and we're still trying to recover from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen Montano. Lastly, we have Hon Lien.
Thank you. So talking about small business, they are the character of our city, especially on Main Street. So when COVID hit, we have ARPA fund of $16.7 million, I believe. We put a portion of that, which is $75,000, to help the small businesses there, to make sure that they improve on the look. And then we spend another $60,000, we call the Business Improvement District, to help small business there on Main Street to thrive. But it is hard enough. There's no traffic going on Main Street. There's no parking, especially nighttime, when no lighting, no parking. There's no way we can attract people to go on Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Hon Lien. Our next question is by Elaine Silvera. Please provide opinions regarding the renaming of the county library. For this one, we will be starting with Voltaire Montemayor.
Renaming places, establishments is honored in a lot of places, but it should be fairly processed. In other words, the name that will be named for should be fair, should be processed, all those surveys should be considered. Yes, I always go to library when I was young. And there's a need sometimes to like, my example now is Sunny Hills Augustine Park. We renamed it. We combined Sunny Hills and Augustine. Now, are we removing the city name also? I'm not sure. I wasn't here in the last meeting. I'm sorry. I was out of town. But if we could fairly process the renaming of a place, of a library.
Thank you, Voltaire Montemayor.
Thank you.
Next is Carmen Montano.
Thank you for the question. So the sequence of events was in January, Councilmember Phan introduced, proposed to have the library renamed. And then in August, Councilmember Barbadillo proposed that the name be former Mayor Jose Estevez. And his reasoning was because he was instrumental in, he played a really hard role in getting the funding and getting all the intricacies that go into that. But I will say that I was on the subcommittee library, renaming subcommittee library committee back with Marcia Grilly back in 2012, and we named parks like Ben Rogers, Bob McGuire, Hall Park, Gil Strickroth, Augustus, Rathborn, all these other parks and facilities, and there's I'm just surprised that there's a lot of controversy on this because it's just a normal
Carmen Montano.
normal policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Hon Lien.
So, I cast my vote back then in this council meeting because I don't think the process was correct. So there was no input at all from the community members. And the meeting that went into a subcommittee was immediately a day after the council meeting. So none of the community members know of the meeting to really show up and speak to. So I'm going to stand still on my vote since last month. I cast that lone vote because I don't believe the process is right.
Thank you, Hon Lien. Last we have Anthony Phan.
Thank you. Look, I want to begin and say that I'm actually proud to honor former Mayor Jose Estevez, especially during Filipino American Heritage Month. He wasn't just a mayor. He was one of our first Filipino American mayors in the entire country. He broke barriers. And, you know, there's some input right there. The fact that he has been re-elected more times than any mayor in Milpitas' history. But the reality is this: no matter who we honor, there's always going to be people who are going to be unhappy. I've been through this before. I proposed renaming a street after President Barack Obama. Can you imagine the backlash? Of course there was backlash. So, you know, the fact of the matter is we can debate all we want about what to name streets or
Thank you, Anthony
buildings,
Phan.
but there's bigger issues at stake.
Thank you. Our next question is, how will you, as mayor, address the toxic work environment at City Hall? For this question, we will start with Carmen Montano.
Thank you for that. You know, people make the environment how they want to make it. When you say toxic, I don't see it as being toxic at all. We get along. There might be one person that does not, maybe he wants to make it a toxic environment, but we all respect each other for the most part, and we get along. There's no drama. There's no poublets. We're just we're there to do the people's business, and that's what we get elected to do. And again, it's not a toxic environment like it was before.
Thank you, Carmen Montano. Next, we have Hon Lien.
Thank you. I don't know if toxic is the right word for this, but yes, in City Hall, the morale is low. And this council created the atmosphere that's with stress and fear to the city staff because they truly don't know who they're reporting to. And they want their job. So for them to do what the council want them to do, then they can keep the job, but that's against their will. So they are, yeah, that's the kind of morale in City Hall at the moment.
Thank you, Hon Lien. Next we have Anthony Phan.
There's something rotten in the city of Milpitas, and it's not the landfill or the treatment plant. It's the toxic work environment at City Hall, and it's undeniable. And it's a direct result of failed leadership from the current administration. Let me be clear. Under the incumbent's watch, we've seen a mass exodus of experienced staff. When you have a mayor who's involved in a wrongful termination lawsuit and constantly interfering in day-to-day operations, it's no wonder that morale has hit rock bottom. This chaos is making it impossible for City Hall to function effectively, and it's hurting all of us. We need new leadership, and we need it now. The people deserve better.
Thank you, Anthony Phan. Last for this question, we have Voltaire Montemayor.
I'm lucky. I'm considering presumably myself as the sixth member of the city council, the mayor, vice mayor, and the other three. Evelyn Chua named me as Manong, you are now the sixth member of the city council because I'm always there in the meetings, the city council meetings, from the start to finish. I am there. I'm always there. Regardless if I'm alone left in the meeting, I am there. In other words, I knew what happened in many scenarios. I know. I just don't want to mention and relate to you the scenarios that happened. But anyway, for me, I still could attain. I still enjoy the meeting because I love doing some public forums and public speaking. So I'm a speaker. Anyway, there is in the conduct, they said
Thank you, Voltaire Montemayor. Thank you.
One voice for the city council.
Thank you. This last question, before we move on to closing statements, is from the Milpitas High School journalism class, and I will be reading it now. How do you plan on building off the success of past leadership, or how do you plan on approaching major issues differently? For this question, we will start with Hon Lien.
All right, thank you. So I already have a plan in mind. With my first 30 days, I'm going to increase our transparency. We are going to publicly report on any vote by council member representing the city on any commission or task force. We don't have that now. We don't know what's going on. And for council members, we have subcommittees that's out there attending the meeting. Nothing is shared back to us. I also want to have the Milpitas app. I have a lot of people requesting curbside, cracked sidewalks, and there is not an indication of time where it will be completed. So that I'm going to change and make sure that it will be happening. The other thing that I would like to share is I will have the city manager to create a system.
Thank you, Hon Lien.
Thank you.
Next is Anthony Phan.
I'm gonna bring City Hall to the people. I think, if anything, that former Mayor Rich Tran has done really well, for example, is getting his message across through social media. And it transcends generational divides. because times are shifting and people need to get their information. I plan to be transparent and I plan to be accessible. When I get elected, if I get elected, I will restore accountability and trust in our local government, and I will lean on the leadership, the successful leaders of yesterday, because everybody has a success story.
Thank you, Anthony Phan. Next is Voltaire Montemayor.
I'm not sure how AI come into play, but we have apparatus of seismic apparatus at the high school. We have science in high school. We have support the teachers. I have plans. If we have a reservoir, a brackish water that if happen, cross fingers, then we have water for fire problem. We have we need students support. We need to have a frame name of Milpitas at the hills. And maybe it won't happen, it's more expensive. We will have the PRT, the public rapid transit. We need that for, it's in line with the carbon problem or the climate change. And thank you.
Thank you, Voltaire Montemayor. Last for questions is Carmen Montano.
Thank you. So, you know what they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, communicating with our state legislators and our state representatives, having our staff members communicate with them frequently, building a relationship with them, because, you know, they have a budget cycle just like we do, and they give us funding when we ask for them. So Alex Lee gave us $1 million for bike lanes, 1.5 for unhoused rent relief extension. Congressman Rokana gave us $3 million for a future bridge, $3 million for home electrification, clean energy, and $750,000 for Main Street infrastructure. So having those relationships with our state legislators is really key in making sure that we get the funding to do our projects here in Milpitas. That's what I'm going to keep pushing for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Montano. All right, that concludes our audience questions, and now we're moving into the final portion of the night, our closing statements. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to deliver their closing statement. We'll start with Anthony Phan.
Thank you. Tonight you've heard a lot of promises, but here's what it comes down to. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to fight for you. For me, this isn't just about running for office. It's about making sure families like mine and families like yours have a fair shot. I grew up watching my mom work her fingers to the bone to give me a better life. I've been that kid who knew how quickly everything can change, how quickly everything can be taken away when times get tough. I understand the struggles so many of you face because I've lived them. That's why I'm running for mayor. I'm tired of seeing the same old faces talk big and do nothing. Milpitas deserves better. We deserve leadership that's honest, energetic, and committed to real change. I'm not afraid to shake up City Hall and call out the dysfunction, because if we keep doing what we've always done, we'll keep getting what we've always gotten. Empty promises, wasted dollars, and a city that's stuck. It's time to turn the page and start a new chapter. A chapter where your voice matters, where your needs come first, and where City Hall works as hard as the people of this city do.
Thank you, Mr. Phan. And now, Voltaire Montemayor.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Voltaire Montemayor. The word Voltaire is a French philosopher. Suriban could be a German name. Montemayor is Hispanic. I look like Asian, so you should give me the chance now. I run since 2014, right? This is the 6th time now that I ran for city council. I may be the last place. for the 2016, 18, 20, 22, I didn't do good, but I'm begging you now. I'll do my best, being me as I'm really an honest guy. I have the integrity. So, like what I've said, I'm being trusted by people. I am trusted. I carry money in the mountains while I was a disbursing officer. And I trust everybody, they trust me. I don't fear anybody. And in other words, I have more to say. I just scribbled this 2 hours ago. Now, Buddha sing. If you love me, make it this year, make it now, please. Anyway, in God's will and time, I believe I could do the job as elected mayor. I keep emphasizing being me as a utility man, a versatile person. I'm also a disciplined man. I'm a kind-hearted person. I go to church any time of the day or even midnight at St. John. So I'm not worried of anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Next, Carmen Montano with her closing statement.
Thank you. So it's been an honor to serve you and to keep serving you as the mayor of Milpitas. People vote for me because they see that I am a genuine person. My actions speak louder than words, the things that I've done for the city. My heart is in the city. I was raised here in the city, so I really care deeply about the city. And I have integrity. My former council member, Phan, stole my identity, and yet he had the audacity to say that it was my fault because I didn't register my name. You know, people, you have to have integrity, and those are the things that you need to be a leader. A true leader is honest and has integrity and has ethical behavior. I mean, you volunteer your time to really serve the citizens. You serve on commissions and be a liaison for the commissions. He didn't. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to spend his time. So, that's why I say actions speak louder than words. You will be able to see what fruit you have produced by your actions. And as I mentioned, please vote for me as a vote of confidence for the city. Thank you.
And finally, Hon Lien.
Thank you. So since I serve on the council, I've attended a total of more than 260 events and meetings with the community members and city staff. I've also attended multiple local and national conferences. And I've demonstrated my fiscal responsibility, my commitment to the community, and my ability to address issues in a creative way, such as securing that 2.9 million federal funds in less than 6 months. I've communicated how to lead Milpitas in being treated equally in the Silicon Valley while still retaining our character, Milpitas character. I'm asking you to vote for me, Hon Lien for mayor. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Good night.
Okay, sorry. Thank you so much to all our moderators. Let's give it up again for all the students from the Milpitas High School journalism class. Also to Maria Denise Cuenca. Thank you so much to all the candidates for being here, sharing your visions and your singing from Milpitas with us. We'd also like to thank our partners and sponsors once again for making this possible. Everybody okay? Everybody good? Low blood pressure? Everybody good? There's gonna be some dancing. We gotta keep it grounded. I couldn't do it. So give it up for the candidates again. Most importantly, we would like to thank all our readers in the audience for all your support over the years. If anyone tonight would like to support the Beat, we have a sustaining membership where you can do just that, just by scanning the QR code on the back of your program. So that concludes all three, it was a lot of work, for our candidate forums. Thank you to all of our community members for being here. We hope you enjoyed the 3 forums. Have a great night, and be sure to go out and vote on November 5th.